Welcome to the deep dive. We're jumping straight in today. We've got a stack of recent news items here, curated from contributors over at CoinMarketCap.
Yeah, quite a mix.
And our mission, really, is to quickly sift through these, pull out the most important, nuggets of knowledge and insight for you.
Basically a shortcut to getting up to speed on these specific topics.
Exactly. Think of it as your rapid download.
And the sources, they cover a lot of ground. We've got things like a big legal outcome for a crypto CEO, some interesting market price action.
Right. And corporate investment strategies, new blockchain uses.
Even touching on regulatory stuff and prediction markets linked to geopolitics. It's quite the range.
It really is. So we're going to guide you through it, highlight what we found interesting, what matters, so you can quickly get the gist.
Sounds good. Where should we start? Maybe with that legal news. One source led with that.
Okay, yeah, let's pick up on that. So a headline from one report, it said, Haru Invest CEO has been cleared of fraud charges. And the amount was huge.
What was the figure?
The source made a point of highlighting it. $650 million.
Wow. $650 million. Yeah, that's substantial.
It really is.
And what's notable there, like the source kind of emphasizes with that number, is just the sheer scale, right? The kind of financial accusations these platforms and their leaders can face.
Definitely.
A charge that big, even if it gets cleared in this case, it really underscores the risks involved and the intense scrutiny in the crypto space right now.
Absolutely. Following these cases, especially with such large sums mentioned in the reports, it gives you crucial context for the whole operational environment.
For sure. That number alone tells a story about the stakes.
Okay, so shifting gears a bit from legal, the sources also flag some interesting market movements. AltLayer, or ALT, caught my eye in one report.
Oh, yeah. What was happening there?
Well, it noted the token saw a really sharp rally. This was Monday, June 16th, a 35% jump. The source called it a breakout candle.
35%. Okay, that's significant. Any reason given?
Yeah. The source connected it, or at least partly, to anticipation. It happened right before ALT was expected to list on Upbit.
Ah, Upbit. South Korea's big one.
Exactly.
Yeah, that makes sense. Exchange listings, especially on major ones like Upbit, you often see reports citing them as catalysts. They can drive volume, volatility.
As traders anticipate, more access, more demand.
Exactly. New visibility often means new activity, like you said.
So ALT was one. Another source zeroed in on Chainlink, LANK.
Okay, LNUK. What was the story there?
It pointed to an upward move.
Yeah.
Not as dramatic as ALT, but nearly 3%, 2.93% to be precise.
And where did that put the price?
Around $13.69, according to that report when it was compiled.
Okay, $13.69. And did the source dig into the why? Why the move?
It did. It mentioned market watchers were pointing to a couple of things. One was an emerging technical pattern they saw on the charts.
Right, the chartists.
Yeah. And also just a growing feeling of momentum recovery among traders, like sentiment was shifting.
Interesting. So a mix of technicals and sentiment. Did they mention any price targets? Sometimes analysts throw those out.
They did. The report included an analyst target it had seen cited somewhere, looking for something like $32, $38.
$32 to $38. Wow. Quite optimistic from 13-ish.
Yeah, quite a range. But it shows how these reports often combine, the chart analysis with broader market feel to explain things and speculate a bit, even if, obviously, predictions are predictions.
Sure. Standard disclaimers apply.
Okay, now this next one. This point from the sources on corporate strategy, it really jumped out at me. Metaplanet.
Ah, yes. Metaplanet. Buying more Bitcoin, right?
Significantly more. According to one report, they acquired another 1,112 BTC.
1,112. Okay. And what does that bring their total to?
Well, this is the remarkable part the source highlighted. It brings their new total to a landmark 10,000 Bitcoin.
10,000 BTC. That's a serious corporate stash.
Isn't it? The report noted the cost for this latest batch was about $117 million. And here's the kicker, the detail the source pointed out. Based on their data, this acquisition apparently puts Metaplanet's corporate Bitcoin holdings above Coinbase's.
Above Coinbase?
Yeah.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
That detail about surpassing Coinbase, it certainly makes you notice. Positions them as a really significant corporate holder now.
Definitely changes the leaderboard a bit, doesn't it? How are they funding all this? Is it just cash on hand?
Good question. The source actually clarified that. They launched a bond issuance, $210 million.
A bond, okay.
Yeah, specifically structured, the report says, to support continued Bitcoin purchases.
So they're using debt financing to stack sats, essentially.
Pretty much. It's not just buying Bitcoin, it's integrating it right into their corporate finance strategy. That's a distinct approach highlighted in the sources.
Very interesting. Okay, so moving from corporate treasuries, did the sources mention any specific new applications of blockchain?
Yes, one did. It highlighted a company called Viberate.
Viberate, what do they do? They're using blockchain in the music industry, offering blockchain-powered music analytics.
Music analytics. Okay. For artists,
Oh,
labels.
for artists, it seems, and the scale mentioned in the report is pretty big, covering over 11 million artists.
11 million. Wow. That's a lot of data points.
It is. And the source noted that their approach, which it said was based on a separate article it referenced, it's generated some buzz, some notable reactions in the community because it's kind of a unique market approach.
Interesting. So an example from the sources showing blockchain finding these like niche use cases in specific industries like music.
Right. Potentially leveraging things like maybe transparent data or rights management for that huge number of artists. The source implies that's what makes their service different.
Got it. Okay. Now, the sources also touched on some topics with, let's say, potential political or geopolitical angles.
Yes, they did. And it's really important here for you listening to understand we're just relaying the information as it was presented in these reports.
Exactly. We're providing the data they contained. No added commentary from us, no endorsement of any particular viewpoint, just reporting what the sources said.
Precisely. So one report cited a warning from Senator Warren.
Okay, what was the warning about?
According to the source, she expressed concern that tech billionaires could potentially create stablecoins,
Stablecoins.
but designed in a way that would allow for tracking people's spending.
Ah, the tracking aspect. That's the concern highlighted.
Yes, and the source explicitly connected the specific warning she reportedly gave to something called the Genius Act.
Okay, so a report on a senator's stated concern and the legislative context mentioned.
Exactly. Presented directly from the text we reviewed.
Got it. And there was another one, wasn't there, about prediction markets?
Yes, another source reported on activity over at Polymarket.
Polymarket, right.
Yeah.
What was being bet on?
This report described activity involving bets placed on the likelihood of a U.S. strike against Iran.
Oof, okay. Geopolitics territory.
Definitely. And what that source highlighted was the fluctuation. It noted that these bets surged at one point to show 67% confidence.
67%.
And then
Yeah.
dropped afterwards. So again, we're simply reporting this observation from the source about the trends and activity within that specific prediction market.
Just a factual report on the market's behavior as described in the material provided.
Exactly. So as we look back across everything we've pulled from this batch of sources,
Yeah, quite a snapshot, isn't it?
it really is. The material covered a lot. That major legal outcome for Haru's CEO and the scale involved.
Specific token price movements like ALT and LENK, and the reasons the reports pointed to, like listings or technicals.
That significant corporate investment milestone, Metaplanet's Bitcoin strategy in surpassing Coinbase.
Or real-world blockchain application in music analytics with Viberate.
And then reports on both regulatory concerns around stablecoins and tracking, plus those prediction market trends tied to geopolitical events.
It's diverse. And this deep dive, by just focusing on these specific details, these insights found right there in the source material.
The aim is really to give you a more efficient way, to cut through the noise and grasp these key reported developments from different parts of the crypto world.
Hopefully saving you some time and highlighting what stood out.
Absolutely. So maybe here's a final thought for you to consider, sort of tying some of these threads together as you process this info.
Okay.
When you see reports about big entities like Metaplanet accumulating Bitcoin on such a large scale, using specific financial tools like bonds,
Yeah.
and you juxtapose that with these discussions, like the one reported from Senator Warren, about the potential for totally new kinds of crypto assets, maybe stable coins issued by huge tech companies, and how they might be designed.
I see where you're going.
Right. What could the long-term implications be, for the structure, the control, the distribution of power and innovation within the crypto landscape itself? How might these trends, big corporate adoption on one hand, potential new financial instruments from major players on the other, how might they shape who holds influence and really how the whole ecosystem evolves down the line? Something to think about.